Hello, folks. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and we're going to be looking at more cryptid stories tonight. But while we wait for people to come into the chat, let me go off and show some more artwork off from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. So here we go. Here's my extreme '90s cover. Looks pretty good, huh? Looks very good. Let me do this right first. Yeah. As I said, this is my cover. It looks pretty good. The covers of my graphic novel Scumdogs. This cover, as you can see, looks very good. And by the way, folks, I've watched a few of my earlier videos, so I'm going to basically try and do a lot better from here on out. My previous videos that I've done have been good, but I can do so much better. So be expecting me to be making this video as good as possible. And as I said, my graphic novel Scumdogs is about 80s cartoons, or rather it's a parody of them, or rather it's a parody of cartoons in general. Now, the main characters, the Scumdogs, well, they're supervillains out to take over the world. And on this cover, you see the Scumdogs fighting their arch enemies in the Space Forces. Particularly, you see Deathmug fighting his archenemy Buick Starpoon. Deathmug being the leader of the Scumdogs. He's the purple guy with the metal mask, while his archenemy Buick Starpoon is the guy with the pink pompadour hair. You see him right here. Now, Deathmug is your classic 80s villain from a cartoon. He's arrogant, overblown, overbearing. He always thinks he's right and will have his way, while his archenemy Buick Starpoon is a parody of the military type of character. Like, there's overblown military guys with their huge egos that always think they're right. Basically, they're always whose egos are always overblown to the point where they can, it's amazing that these guys or anyone would actually trust them with a command of anything. Now, they hate each other's guts because, as I said, they're just so arrogant. As soon as they got into a room with each other, they basically became arch enemies. Now, Deathmug, you can see that he has various aspects from other villains from 80s cartoons. He's got a metal mask, much like Cobra Commander does from G.I. Joe, the leader of Cobra. And he's also got gold on him, like Serpentor, who's another leader of Cobra from G.I. Joe. And of course, he's purple, like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, his archenemy Buick Starpoon, he's basically a G.I. Joe parody. He's mostly a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe, but he's also a parody of the space hero kind of character as well. Like Captain Kirk, James T. Kirk from Star Trek, or Buzz Lightyear, or maybe Buck Rogers. You get the idea, those kinds of characters. You can see it in his uniform. You can see it in his uniform. Anyone wearing a similar uniform to him. Oh, by the way, because he's a G.I. Joe parody, Buick Starpoon is a military specialty, and everyone else on his team is a military specialty as well. But as you can see, his uniform, the green white uniform he's wearing, anyone on this cover wearing a similar uniform to him is part of his team in the Space Forces. Now, Buick Starpoon's military specialty is that he's a captain in the Space Forces. He's a captain in the Space Forces. While this guy with the mohawk over here, his name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he's an army guy. Before he joined the Space Forces, he was part of the army. Let me get there. Like this. You go down here. Yeah. Now, this bald guy with a gun down here, his name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine, just another Marine. While this guy back here in the red uniform driving that vehicle and basically firing things off, his name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. All right, looks pretty good, huh? This is one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when Mandy Go goes live. Now let's go over here. We're going to look at Girl Friday. Girl Friday is a parody character. She's mostly a parody of female G.I. Joe characters, but she's also Well, she's also Buick Starpoon's second command on the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. You get it. She was put on the Wild Rangers because her superiors in the Space Forces saw that the Wild Rangers, while they do fight the scumdogs and save the world, they're just highly destructive idiots. Their idea of saving something is basically, well, there's nothing left after they save it, and you get the idea that there's just nothing left. So her superiors in the Space Force is basically trying to basically head off any more disasters like that. Basically put Girl Friday on as Buick Starpoon's second command, and she hates her job in the military now because, well, she's just a babysitter. It's Girl Friday. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me. It helps me fight the it helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my videos and content. And that means my graphic novel will come out all the sooner to you as soon as I have enough people following me. As well as hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications. And please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Now we're going to look at Buick Starpoon's henchmen. No, I mean Death Mug's henchmen. Death Mug, being a villain, like from an 80s cartoon. That means he has henchmen, guys who do his the work for him. Usually those kinds of henchmen are total idiots, and these are Death Mug's idiots. Or maybe I should say these are my idiots. The blue guy with the top hat is Murder Mouth. And the pink guy down here is Sloppy. There are a couple of idiots that destroy everything in sight, and they're going to be fun as hell when you read them in my graphic novel, which is currently not live on Indiegogo, but I'm still working on the book, and it'll come out to you, and please go back it when it is. Yeah, please go back Scumdogs on Indiegogo when it goes live. Here we're going to look at Hair Metal Doctor, and then Miss Breasty Melons over here. Hair Metal Doctor is a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist here has been crossed over with a hair metal musician because I thought that'd be awesome to have as a villain. He's one of the Scumdogs and stuff like that. Oh, I didn't mention who the Scumdogs are. The Scumdogs are former pro athletes. They used to play in these sports known as the Scumdog sports and stuff like that, sporting events held with superhuman athletes or superhuman monsters who play the sports. See, they get these powers either through science or through some other means to compete in these sporting events. And they're called scum dogs because, well, they're scum and dogs for trading in their humanity for powers, for money. Yeah, for fame and fortune, they became monsters. So not exactly the nicest guys around. But what happens when they get banned from sports? They then try to take over the world. And Hair Metal Doctor here, he's a mad scientist, and you're going to love him when you read about him. And here's Miss Breasty Melons. She's a parody of the Baroness. She's a parody of the Baroness from G.I. Joe. But unlike the Baroness, she only became a villain for, fun. She only did this because she wants to have fun. Now you can get the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Melons pinup along with other pinups in my graphic novel when you back it on Indiegogo. It's not live yet, folks, but it'll be coming to you soon enough. But I will also try to get these pinups to you. I will also try to get these pinups to you on T-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them, okay? I looked at that. Now let's exit out of this. And we can maybe look at some Indiegogos before we get into looking at more cryptid stories tonight. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me if you have not yet. Let's see. Any new Indiegogos up? Doesn't look like there's anything too new. Not bad. All right. Maybe I'll just go on. Oh, Alien Alamo is made 81,626. That's pretty good. Now, what to look at first? Let's see. Let me do this. Let's look at Bizarre Accounts, Real Monsters in the Basement. me go over here and we'll look at. All right, get that there. Sorry about that, folks. I screwed up there. Let me go to share screen, video file, share screen. Do this. Sorry, I exited my thing again. It was an accident. Sorry. All right, do this here, and let me get this down here. And we can look at stories like that as well as look at this one. Now, let me go over here. Put this over here. Let's see. There, we got 2 people watching. We're going to look at scary monsters in the basement. Let's see, cryptids and stuff like that. One creepy locale that has become so entrenched in horror films fiction that it has become a long-running trope is that of the creepy dark basement. It is perhaps one not surprising that each such places down there in the dark depths of the earth with their creeping shadows should draw to them such a reputation, and they indeed make a really great set piece for horror. Yeah, for scary stuff. What is perhaps surprising is that there are numerous accounts from people who have had some rather frightening paranormal experiences down in the basement. Every bit as disturbing as anything within, yeah. If you're wondering, folks, yeah, I'm trying to make my video a lot better. I've looked at some of my previous live streams and I've basically been rushing through the information a bit too fast. I've gotten some likes for it and people have liked it, but I'm trying to go and make this live stream as good as possible. So feel free to leave chats and give me anything, talk about anything you want, but also sit back and enjoy this video within a horror film. But let's get back to this article. Every bit as disturbing anything within a horror film, but surprisingly real. One of the weirder accounts of something odd lurking in a basement is actually one that was relayed to me by a reader some time ago. The witness, who calls herself Ginny, says that when she was around 14 years old, she experienced a very unusual encounter while staying at her grandparents' house one summer in the state of Maine. She says that the house was rather old and had an expensive, basement downstairs, which was used mostly as storage since her grandparents could not easily get up and down the stairs due to the limits of space for everyone. She was left mostly sleeping in the living room, which shared a door that led directly down into the darkness of that place, and from which she had on several consecutive nights heard a scratching sound coming from within, like clawed, scampering feet. When she told her father about what she was hearing, he just told her it was probably rats or raccoons, and that was the end of it. Yet the anomalous sounds have persisted, and one night she decided to crack the door open and take a look for herself. She would say of what happened next. Ooh. I creaked the door open and looked down in the dark, but all there were those scratching sounds. I turned on the basement light, but it did little to illuminate what was down there. I was young and curious, so I took some weary steps down the stairs. Those sounds were more pronounced down there, and I was getting scared but still curious. The light barely reached to the bottom of the stairs, and I peered at the stone floor, expecting a rat or something to go scurrying across. What I did not expect was a thing that lopped past. It looked like Golem from Lord of the Rings, pale, hairless, hunched over, with glinting eyes that reflected the light when it stared back at me. It seemed to grin for a second and then scampered off. I screamed and ran to my sleeping father to wake him up, but when he went down to check it out, there was nothing there. Weirdly, there was another door that led out to the outside, and it was found to be ajar. My dad said it was just raccoons or a stray cat, but I know better. An eerily similar account was posted on Reddit. So, I think she saw one of the some sort of alien, or maybe one of the fair folk, an ultra-terrestrial. It sure sounds like it. It sure does sound interesting. Posted on Reddit by a user calling herself Claire. She says that her and her husband had finally brought their dream house on the edge of a large forest and that she had been rather happy with the arrangement at first, but something would change all of that. At the time, her husband was apparently staying with a friend while he cleaned up some business with his old job. So it was just her there in their new home with their dogs for the weekend. It was then that a strange series of events would begin to unfold, she says. I was unpacking boxes of books and CDs when by accident I opened a box of Christmas decorations. Chris and I decided on our unused stuff to be stored in the basement, as it was just a cement hole anyway, a cold, windowless room not much bigger than a walk-in closet. I walked down the wooden stairs and dropped the box in a corner when I noticed there was a small hatch on the wall under the staircase. Initially, I got really excited as I thought it was a safe or something, but then I noticed there was only a latch on it to lock it from the outside. I wondered if it could be a door, but the opening was quite narrow. A small person such as myself would maybe fit, but say my husband would have trouble fitting through. Stepping closer, I noticed a small plaque that said, "Keep shut at all times." Naturally, I opened it. Anyway, there wasn't anything to see, though it was really dark inside, and the light from the basement was way too dim to light at all. From inside came a clicking or snapping kind of noise, not quite rhythmic, but frequent enough that I thought it may be some kind of type of machine. I didn't dare sticking my head or limbs in for fear of getting electrocuted or cut in half, so I shut the hatch and resolved to take a look when I unpacked my flashlight. That would have been the end of it if it weren't for the odd occurrence that would happen over the next few days. It began with the dogs acting oddly at all hours, barking at nothing, or sniffing and growling at the windows. Think they're dealing with ultra-terrestrials, aliens, or just ultra-terrestrials again, maybe fairies and that kind of stuff, maybe a gnome or something like that, down there in the basement, or whatever that was. Come on, tell us some more about these creatures, huh? Aliens, could they be as well? Extraterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, who knows? Yeah, ultra-terrestrials. Shadows pulled into the corners of the room, especially at the entrance to the basement. She then started to hear a faint clicking sound and emanating from beyond the space behind the hatch, down in the basement, and she called her husband to tell her she thought they had an infestation of rats. In the meantime, her dogs continued to act up, scratching at the floor and walls for no reason and licking her face to wake her up at all hours. It was on one of these occasions that the whole thing would take a shift hand turn into the bizarre. Yeah, right hand turn into the bizarre. Take a swift right-hand turn into the bizarre, she would say of what happened next. That's pretty awesome, huh? What do you think about this? A swift right-hand turn into the bizarre, she would say, or of what happened next. That morning, one of the dogs decided to pull me out of my slumber by aggressively licking my face. I groggily pushed it off and pulled the sheets off my face when I remembered the scratching. I cursed and hastily got up to check if he'd ruined the door. And then I noticed both the dogs were in my bedroom. Whatever had scratched the door last night was not one of my dogs. Oh, and it ruined the door, by the way. Nice. Also, when I went down for breakfast, I noticed the bowl of dog food was completely empty, even though I just refilled it the night before. When I called Chris that evening, told him I thought we had an infestation of something big. You might think that I would have been scared at this point, but I hadn't quite connected the dots, and we live in an old house, so I figured anything was possible. It must have been past midnight when I woke up from the motion-activated lights in the backyard switching on. Half asleep, I turned to look, and what I saw shocked me. Wide awake, about 50 feet away, stood a tall, slender humanoid figure. It was hunched over as it drank from the bird bath we had just put in the garden a few days ago. For a few seconds, I just sat there frozen in fear, watching it drink. The creature had long, thin limbs, and its skin was pitch black like a shadow that just rose from the pavement. So some of these humanoids can be more than just white or black. They can just be black, but actually you can tell it's it's not just you can see details on it and stuff like that. It's more than just that. It has actually more like black skin. Okay, became it well. That's Rose became a person. It seemed emaciated. The bones were sticking out so far under its dry skin, it looked as if they were going to pop out. And when it rose up, its face, God, that face will haunt me forever. Its clouded gray eyes lay away too deep in its skull. The worst part, though, was the mouth. It was so big and it had so many teeth. It was somehow contorted in what almost seemed to be a smile. And it was looking right at me. For a second, I thought that was the end of me, but then it just backed away into the darkness and it sank into the shadows. It became immediately invisible. I heard the leaves rustle further into the woods, and it was gone. I locked myself and the dogs in the basement and quickly cried until sunrise. I eventually... gathered up the courage to get out. That was this morning. I called Chris and told him everything. He said he'd come over ASAP. He should be here before dinner. I said to unpack some more boxes today to take my mind off of it. Also because I didn't want Chris to know I'd put it off all week. But while putting more boxes in the basement, to my horror, I discovered the hatch was all the way open. I definitely closed it Sunday. I'm 100% sure I didn't lock it. Whatever was in there, it's out. What in the world was going on here, and what was that thing? Strange basement-dwelling humanoids make another appearance here with an account from your ghost stories by a witness who says that when your father and sister were children, they went down into the basement of their home to fetch some waffles from the large chest freezer that was kept down there. She would explain, our bedroom is in the basement, and when you walk down the stairs, you enter the playroom. If you keep going forward, you will enter our bedroom. You take a left at the bottom of the stairs, then you enter the room we were currently in. I'm not sure if the correct words to use to describe the layout, so I just used a basic explanation. As we got to the bottom of the stairs, my sister flicked the lights off to the computer room. The computer room is where the freezer is. Hurry up. By the way, folks, the computer room and stuff like that, off to the computer room. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, as well as please go share this video on social media. Hit that like button and stuff, and share it on, hit that bell as well. Hit that part of the bell that gives you all future notifications for my videos, as well as please share this video on Twitter and Facebook. The computer room let's get back to this article. Off to the computer room. The computer room is where the freezer is. My sister started rushing me, looking behind her the whole time. She was pushing a little bit as we made our way upstairs. When we got upstairs to the kitchen, she sat in a corner and burst into tears. Our mother in the kitchen at the time came. And asked what was wrong. My sister explained how she had looked towards our bedroom after turning off the lights and saw a pale figure standing in the doorway. She told us that it looked like a short human with no features or clothing. It was just a peach-colored humanoid figure with no face, no genitals, nothing but white spiked hair, much like that of a from the anime, and insisted that she saw it slowly making its way toward us. After hearing the story, our mother went downstairs to see what it was, possibly a burglar or something, but it came back with no explanation. We concluded that it was probably just her imagination or maybe some sleep in her eyes. We've lived in the house for 3 to 4 years after that, and we haven't had any other experiences with anything of this sort since. What was the creature or entity, and where did it come from? Was this a ghost, an interdimensional interloper, or something else? It is hard to say. Other accounts seem to point out at what seems to be some sort of ghostly entity or even a demon, although what exactly it is remains unknown. Take the account from a witness calling herself Carrie, who also relayed her experience to your ghost stories. She says of her creepy encounter, "My roomies and I just moved into our new house about a month ago, and since the basement was a nice, clean, finished basement, I wanted my room to be down there, starting from about a week after we moved in. I have been waking up in the middle of the night to hearing voices. I would go downstairs. Of course, everyone would be sleeping, so I just assumed they were dreams, etc. That was until last night. I had just turned off the lights and lay down and was wide awake, mind you, when I heard a small child laughing, sounding like it was right in front of my face. So very freaked out, I turned my light back on and TV'd and calmed down, trying to think of any logical explanation. Of course, there wasn't one. I finally fell asleep and woke up around 4 a.m. to extreme pain in my leg. I looked down and had a bright red bite mark and small handprints on my leg. I did not tell my roomies this morning, as I'm sure they wouldn't believe me, considering they don't believe in ghosts, demons, or anything supernatural. Also in our utility room off from the basement, some previous tenants, I'm assuming, had 66. Well, there was a 666 in there and had drawn pentagrams on the walls, but I painted over that before we ever moved in. In another case, we have something that seems to be rather vague and ambiguous, yet very creepy and food for thought. Nevertheless, the Reddit witness, went on. Mommy told me never to go into the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It kind of sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy, so I opened the basement door and tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy, and then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad. And I cried. Then Mommy told me never to go into the basement again. And she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask why the boy in the basement was making noises like a puppy, or why he had no hands or feet. There is frustratingly little other details given, so what in the world did this witness see? Another account on this go starts with witness explain how their house is located on what was once an open prairie that had various Native American, native stuff on it. Creepy enough already, but it gets even more so. The witness says that not long after moving in, he would often hear the sound of someone walking about, even when no one was there, especially at night, and that he would have a very surreal experience down in the basement of the home. The witness described how one day he and his friend came to the home on a hot day and decided to hang out in the basement, and he says of his experience. We walked inside and head straight for the basement. While it was cooler than the rest of the house, while walking down the stairs, I noticed that the Beatles' Yellow Submarine poster hanging at the bottom of the stairway was tilted slightly to the left. No bother. Figured it must have gotten bumped by me or something. I fixed it and we walked into the main room. Mind you, we had pictures and posters hanging everywhere in the basement. What my friend and I saw instantly creeped us out. All 10 to 15 pictures of the walls were each tilted slightly to the left, just as the Beatles had been. But the weirdness of the situation didn't stop there. The storage room, essentially a dirt floor room that is lifted about 4 feet off the ground, had its door cracked open. So I had walked over and see a golden glow emanating out. There is a pull cord light located around 10 feet from the door that is turned on. I hop up and into the storage room, crawl on my hands and knees to the light and turn it off, hoping that all of this had a natural explanation. I call my mom back up and ask her about it. She says she has no idea what I'm talking about and hasn't been in the basement for weeks before she left on her trip. Shivers shoot down my spine. I look back into the storage room, and in the dirt there's a handprint, the most distorted and mangled footprint imaginable. I'm frozen in fear. My friend is too. Without words, we look at one another, feeling a sickening, gut-wrenching feeling. I slam the storage space door shut. Locked it, and we bolted out of the house. as fast as we could. I'll never forget how sickening and mangled that footprint looked, and thinking that I had crawled in there to turn off the light and still gives me shivers to this day. Another report that seems like it must have been a ghost or some demonic entity comes from the National Cryptid. Well, and revolves around a witness who was in Harrisburg, Kentucky, along with his nephew to check out a supposedly intensely haunted house in the area. The whole area is already a hot spot for paranormal activity, having been the site of some fierce Civil War era battles, and they were checking out a house that had supposedly been investigated by several paranormal TV shows. The witness describes what happened to them. We didn't trespass or anything. We had stayed on the sidewalk, and we thought it was a bit odd that there was a fog on the windows constantly. I took my flashlight out to look around, and in the basement there was two glowing things, which I assumed was just my flashlight hitting something that reflected. So I asked my neighbor if he saw it too. And by the time I turned around, my nephew had ran off to the car, and I immediately followed. All right. I did a 3-point turn in front of the house. I turned my brights on, and whatever it was turned and looked at me with the glowing red eyes. And from what I've seen in the basement isn't small, so this thing was standing at least 6 feet tall. Its eyes were too wide apart to be human or any animal that I could think of. Through all the references, I immediately thought of the many werewolf movies I'd seen. That, or perhaps we saw a demon that night. It's certainly, well, certainly seems somewhat demonic in nature, whatever it was, and one is left to wonder just what it was they saw lurking down in that dark place. So far, every one of these cases has originated in the basement of homes, but this is not always the case. And another quite possibly demonic case, and one that is certainly more violent in nature, and one that is allegedly happened in the basement of a military base in Germany. The account was by a witness named Adolf. I'm just going to call him Aldolf, who claims to be the equivalent of a sergeant in the Unified Armed Forces of Germany called the Bundeswehr. He claims to have had a very anomalous experience. When he was just a cadet at boot camp in East Germany one evening at around 5 p.m., they were apparently, all right, doing drills when they heard some sort of eerie, unexplainable thing. Noise coming from one of the nearby buildings. They did not think much of it all the time, but then at 8 p.m. the power grid began to go on the fronts, with lights flickering everywhere, which was odd. It has been just inspected just a few days before. That is interesting, isn't it, folks? By the way, folks, hit that like button for me so that you can get that it helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my videos. As well as please go share this video on Twitter and Facebook. What do you think he came across, huh? These are some good-looking stories we've been reading, huh? But what did this guy see? What did this guy see? I mean, I could take a guess before we go on and stuff, but it's very interesting, I have to say. But what could it possibly be? Another weird creature, something that we've seen before, something we've read about? Or maybe it's an alien he sees. Could be any of these things. But what could it honestly be? All right, let's go on. The base drill sergeant was convinced it was just a faulty generator and had the witness go out with 3 others to fix it. The men then made their way to the basement and where the generators were kept, and there they found that 2 of the generators worked fine, although one had inexplicably been turned off. When they got to the larger third generator, when things would get ominous down there in the dank basement of the witness says what happened next. The third generator was the largest main source of power in the base. The first thing I noticed were the scratches. This seemingly super hard to break hunk of metal had what I think were scratches and cuts. Claw marks piercing its outer metal shell like a buzzsaw, so deep the scratches had cut the cords inside and had damaged the batteries, as though they were paper. After a moment of thinking, I knew this couldn't have been a person doing this, seeing as nothing any cadet could cut. This scene as nothing any cadet. This as could cut through that tough metal so easily. I immediately rushed up the stairs to tell my drill sergeant, hoping he would know what to do. He told me the most we can do is tell base command and put someone guard to guard the door and have the generator replaced. Good thing, reported this cadet Schaefer. After getting a pat on the back, I resumed my daily training routines. I'm going to try that again. After getting a pat on the back, I resumed my daily training routines without anything too odd happening. But some hours later, something in the night, I can't be exactly sure when, I heard scratching noises, but not from the basement. They were too close and too loud. And if they were in the sleeping quarters. After that moment of realization, I opened my eyes and looked around. I saw what I thought was someone in the corner going through a bag. But when I looked around the room, sheer terror came into me. All the bunks were full. Every one. Wait the hell, I thought to myself, but then as if I had heard what I was thinking, the thing in the corner turned to face me. It was pale gray with no nose and claws like razors. This sounds like an alien he saw, was skinny and 2 feet taller than my 6-foot self. After that, I just froze in a blank stare of terror. In my mind, sections turned to minutes turned to hours, and hours turned to days. I think I passed out of terror because after all, I remember after that is waking up to my buddies and sergeant looking at me while talking to me and telling me I looked sick, and I felt sick too, like all energy from me was drained for days on end. Was this a demon or some hideous entity from a realm beyond our own? Once again, we are left to merely speculate. These tales of basement encounters with the paranormal really seem to run a range of different types and details, leaving us to question and try to classify what was seen in any of them. There is, of course, the possibility that these are just the result of overactive imaginations, phantoms of the mind more than anything there in the shadows, wraiths planted there by fear, all exacerbated in the innately spooky ambience of these places. Yet, what if these people did see exactly what they say they did? These ghosts, demons, creatures from some other dimension or something else? Why are they hiding down in the confines of these eerie basements? Who knows? Whatever one wants to think, basements are certainly inherently scary places that have a way of pricking at the back of our mind and conjuring up dread. And if there really are such monsters and specters out there in our world, this seems to be exactly where, that's where they probably in the basement. That's where they'd be. Good one. That was a good bunch of stories we read there in this article. Wasn't it, folks? Let me go over here to see if anyone has hit that like button. Not doing too bad. If you have not hit that like button yet, folks, please do so. It really helps me fight the algorithm. Let's see. All right, go down here. Flying gargoyles reportedly captured on video. Got flying gargoyle. Adventures in Cryptozoology Part 2. Mysterious swamp monsters. Creepy encounters with underground humanoid monsters? Maybe. What is the nature of ghosts? Some alternative theories. Bizarre hellhound encounters. Weird encounters with mysterious humanoids in Texas. Bizarre accounts of the pale crawlers. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's see. Among the strange encounters in the world of the paranormal, there are often those that serve up to be particularly baffling. These are the cases that hover out beyond our ability to really classify them and put a name to them. Are they ghosts, mysterious animals, aliens, or what? No answers are clear in such accounts, and they lurk out there in the periphery of the fringe. Among those bizarre accounts are tales from all over what appear to be some sort of thin, pale things, often hunched over, crouching and crawling, that have come to be collectively known as pale crawlers, which are every bit as creepy as you might imagine. Right. Probably one of the most well-known cases of these odd entities is that of what we have come to be called Fresno night crawlers. The first account of these truly bizarre and unidentifiable creatures surfaced in the 1990s when a video came forward showing something very strange indeed lurking about in the area of Fresno, California. There was a family who were concerned about trespassers on their property as their dogs had begun to bark out into the darkness nearly every night. And this prompted them to install a security camera outside by their garage facing the front lawn. The next morning after they set up the camera, they were in for quite a shock, as there in the video was a pair of pale beings, a few feet in height with no discernible arms and two long, spindly, almost stilt-like legs that appeared to bend backwards. Interestingly, there seems to be some sort of fabric flapping around the legs, drawing many comparisons to a pair of disembodied walking pants. In the footage, the creatures smoothly and fluidly move across the front lawn and out of view, but that's that. Yeah, we've seen this before. Look at those things. The quality of the footage is sadly making it nearly impossible to discern any real details, but the general shape and their odd way of moving were creepy enough to have the family contact the police. Contact them and stuff. Before long, the media got a hold of the footage, and the Fresno night crawlers became a hot topic. Although thought by many to be a hoax, others say that this footage has captured something truly otherworldly, and the footage was subjected to a detailed analysis by TV producers. On a channel show called Fact or Faked, which showed that the footage seemed to be genuine, and they were unable to reproduce the same results by intentionally faking the video. Following on the heels of this video was another, this time taken over in California's Yosemite National Park, March 2011. In this case, the surveillance camera had been set up by park officials for the purpose of identifying some intruders who had been vandalizing an area of the park. And again, they seem to have caught on tape something anything but human. Again, there is a pair of spindly white entities lopping across the frame on a hillside, one seemingly much smaller than the other, and both with what appears to be some sort of webbing connected from the knees to the upper body. Although they appear to be very similar, it is unknown if the Fresno creatures and the ones from Yosemite are related or not. There have been theories ranging from that this was all a hoax, to that they are native spirits from lore, ghosts, or even aliens. No one really knows. Something similar to these entities was cited in January 2004 in a case documented by a researcher, Albert S. Albert S. The sighting allegedly happened in Manchester, Dearborn Country, Indiana. When a young man was driving along a remote rural road in the area. As the witness rounded a bend in the headlights, illuminated a tall, frail-looking pale being crouched over a puddle of water. As the witness passed the thing, he looked back and could make out that it moved in a disjointed, odd manner and had, according to him, protruding joints that buckled out. As he watched the thing flickering in the red light cast by his tail lights, the crouched bone-white creature purportedly stood to a height of an estimated 6 to 7 feet tall and began to walk about in a strange manner. Interestingly, as he was watched, there was apparently another car that came along and seemed to swerve to avoid the thing before stopping. The witness would take talk to the elderly couple in the car, and they would confirm having seen the same thing, with which they said it was no human being, it was no man. They were all so spooked that they decided to drive out there in a close procession together. Indiana had produced some other seemingly odd reports as well. In one case from the winter of 2016, the witness was out feeding goats in a farm in Traverse Country, Indiana, at around 8 p.m., and when she finished, she started walking back. The witness would say of what happened next. After I had finished, I began to walk back. I had crossed one field and was about halfway through the narrow path when I started to hear rustling in the underbrush. All I had with me was a little flashlight that only shined about 10 feet in front of me. I was almost to the end of the path when I spotted something. It was on all fours with a bony frame, elongated limbs, and pale skin. While the first part of this description sounds very generic, it did seem to have a long and highly flexible neck. Not long after I noticed it, it noticed me and bolted down the path. It ran almost scattering to the second floor field. This field had a small hill in the center. This thing fled and disappeared over one side as I ran as fast as I could around the other side of the small hill and zigzagged back to my house, where I quickly locked all my doors. This thing was terrifying, but it seemed watchful more than anything for now. Another, story from Indiana documented the National Cryptid Society database. We have a case for the Michigan City from Michigan City from 2012. In the middle of a lightning storm, to add some atmosphere, the witness claims that she had been staying at the beach house of a friend by Lake Michigan and that there had been a lightning storm at that time. At around 2 a.m., some of them went outside to smoke and watch the lightning, and that was when they noticed the beam of a flashlight scanning the tall grass by the shore, nearby as if searching for something. Thinking this to be a bit odd, the group of friends watched on and saw that the beam had captured an elongated, grayish, humanoid-looking creature stretched out on the beach, and the witness would say, "The light sweeps by something in the grass." Looks like this is another story we've read before, I think. Then it shines back onto it. What was illuminated was very strange. It appeared to be a naked guy crawling around on the grass. Although it had elongated arms and legs, it was moving kind of fast, crunched over. It only lasted a few seconds, long enough for all of us to see. Was this light from an alien spaceship, and it was searching for this creature? Where did that light come from? We can read it again. The witness claims that she had been staying at the beach house of a friend by Lake Michigan. There had been a lightning storm around 2 a.m. Some of them went outside to smoke and watch the lightning, and that was when they noticed the beam of a flashlight scanning the tall grass by the shore nearby, as if searching for something. Thinking this to be a bit odd, the group of friends watched and saw that the beam had captured an elongated, grayish, humanoid-looking creature stretched out. So was this light from a UFO or something? Or what was it from? And why was it looking for this creature? I should have brought up these questions the last time I read this article, or rather read this story. This is very odd. Elongated arms. It only lasted a few seconds. Then after the thing ran off, the flashlight shines directly at us. It stayed pointing at us until it went out after a few seconds. Creepy. So we're all like, WTF was that? We asked what each other saw, and we all saw a weird, stretched out naked guy. The only explainable thing it could have possibly been was a drunk, gangly, naked guy. Naked, gangly, the only explainable thing it could have possibly been was a drunk, gangly, naked guy. But I don't think so, because it looked abnormally stretched. It looked abnormally stretched. The light pointed at us, and it freaked everyone out. It was something strange. I can't say what the height of it was accurately, maybe around 7 feet tall. My husband said it looked like something from a Marilyn Manson music video. I wanted to go down there. I wanted to see if we could find it, but no one would go, and they were creeped out and wanted to go inside. That was very strange, wasn't it, folks? What on earth was that outlandish thing they saw? What was with that flashlight? And why did it train itself on the observers of this surreal scene? Who knows? There have been a few sightings of something similar and equally baffling around the town of Effingham and the state of Illinois of the state in the state. One case file of the National Cryptid Society is dated as 2010 and concerns a witness only known as Jade. The witness was allegedly out one night, headed for the supposedly haunted Casbah Cemetery in the deep woods outside of Effingham, along with two friends. When they were out in the countryside at around 1 a.m. in the morning, something very curious congealed out of the night, and the witness would say, "I see something with yellow glowing eyes off to the side of the country road, just past the ditch, and the headlights, too short to be a deer, but too big to be a possum or a raccoon." As we got closer, it gets clearer, and I realize what I'm looking at is a skinny, hairless, and gray human, but definitely not human, crazy as hell looking thing. It was crouched down. Its arms were incredibly long. It looked like it could have been 7 feet tall or bigger. Standing, I can feel myself get cold and my heart race and my hair stand on the back of my neck. Complete shock and terror set in, and I can't make a sound. I'm just staring at it. By the time we are right in front of it, passing it, and it just watches us drive by, it slinks back into the dark. Then we all just start screaming, literally freaking the hell out. I was convinced it was a demon for months, but still doubted myself to have even seen it, thinking my mind was playing tricks on me. We didn't even make it to the Casbah that night. We went straight home. I couldn't sleep that night. The witness went on to become convinced that what she had seen was a ghoul, or an entity that looks around feeding on the dead. She would say of this: "They feed on the freshly dead and normally stay close to the cemeteries to be close to food. They have been known to show themselves to humans when trying to get close to them to eat in times where fresh deceased bodies are scarce." I went to images of them, and I could only find illustrations, but they looked exactly like what I had saw that night. Everything I was reading was falling perfectly in place, lined up perfectly with my experience. I can't explain it away. Also in the state of Illinois is a case from the town of Roseville in 2010. The setting was a cemetery, and the time was just after sunset. The witness was a friend, and we were walking down the main lane through the cemetery when something fairly weird scuttled out of the sight. The witness would say, "Something came running from the gate and passed us on our left." My friend and I had laughed and asked if I had heard that, and I stopped walking and responded with that no, but I had seen it. As the thing had passed between the headstones, I caught a look. The thing looked like a pale, emaciated humanoid that was running on all fours. It had no hair at all that I could see, and I did not get a look at the face. It was moving far faster than any person running on heads should have been able to. My friend and I just stayed frozen there and waited for another friend to come and get us because we were too scared to move. It continued to circle us as we could hear it moving around. It never seemed threatening. If anything, it seemed curious, scared of us, but who knows? I didn't know what it was, not a coyote or a stray dog. I never saw the face, but I did see the head. It did not have a muzzle. There was no tail either. It definitely didn't have fur. It had pale, almost bluish skin, and I remember I could make out the ribs from where I was staying. Forgive me if this is not a hot mess of a post. I was up all night researching things, and when I did fall asleep, I didn't sleep well. Other locations have had sightings as well, such as Ballard Country in western Kentucky. As the witness was driving along the road home on a gravel road one night around 2 a.m., he says that he caught something in his headlights that startled him to the core, he would say. "I caught sight of something white and vaguely human crawling in the ditch. As we passed it, I hit the brakes, thinking it was a person who needed help. 'Are you crazy? Don't effing stop,' Blake screamed. I looked in the mirror and saw that it was standing up, even though it was still in the ditch. It was as tall as the stop sign next to it. I took a step towards us, and I hit the gas. As we drove away, I saw in the mirror that it dropped to all fours and was crawling after us. I didn't start pulling away from it till I got up to 40 miles per hour. No matter how close I was to it, I never got a good look at it. It was fuzzy, like it was constantly out of focus. I'm not sure why, but something about it makes me think of it as male, maybe that the height. When it crawled, it moved like a lizard, hands and feet flat on the ground, elbows and knees up and out out, body weight wiggling side to side. This happened when I was around 22. I'm 40 now and have never seen the thing again. I've taken many a midnight cruise along those narrow roads, but I've never had the nerve to go near the particular farm road again. Call me Chicken. I'll cluck happily. Midnight, huh? Such accounts seem to lie beyond any easy classification. Are we dealing with some sort of cryptid ghosts, aliens, interdimensional interlopers, or what? Is it all just hoaxing and misinformation? These obviously seem to be far beyond normal reports of cryptids or ghostly phenomena, leaving us to merely ponder just what might be going on. Whatever the answers may be, these truly bizarre entities are not anything anyone would want to encounter slithering down a darkened road at night. In the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I definitely would say so. I think I want to fit one more article in. I mean, like this, at least maybe a short one if I can find it, or at least part of one. All right. A bizarre year of truly bizarre interdimensional interlopers. Just one part of one. Let's see. What is the nature of ghosts? Some alternative theories. Creepy encounters with underground humanoid monsters. Let's what to look at. What to look at indeed. Go over here. We're coming to the end of this article. I just want to maybe end it on a high note. Maybe we'll look at some more. Maybe look at a bit of these river monsters of Georgia. Just a bit of it. Meandering through the countryside of southeastern Georgia in the United States. I'm probably not going to finish this article. I'm just reading a bit of it. Is the Altoona River, which stretches for 137 miles. One of the largest rivers. Yeah. It is notable for a very large river basin, the second largest in the country, which covers 14,000 square miles of sprawling marshland, numerous tributaries, and secondary rivers, twisting channels of islands, dikes, canals, lakes, ponds, and spooky abandoned 18th and 19th century rice fields. The basin is home to an incredibly diverse ecosystem, earning it the nickname the Little Amazon. But among the many animals that inhabit this vast expanse of river territory, its murky waters is supposedly a mysterious, frightening beast that long terrorized the native tribes, It's probably just a giant eel. A lot of these big sea monsters and lake monsters are giant eels, apparently, because they found, giant eel DNA in Loch Ness, and they found giant eel DNA in various places like this, which means it's still basically a monster. A giant eel is a big freaking fish, after all, very huge. And depending how big it is, you can say it's a monster. But it could also be something supernatural as well. You can't rule that out. Let's see. The lower Muskogee often spoke of the creature. They called them said to be an alligator, like a reptilian beast around 20 to 30 feet long, gray or green in color with a white yellowish underbelly with front flippers instead of legs, a powerful tail, a bony armored back with very large eyes, an oversized mouth full of sharp teeth. It was mostly seen as an aggressive creature. Let's just get into the actual encounters with this creature. Let's look at this. Although it was frequently cited for a very long time, one of the earliest real publicized reports of the monster allegedly occurred on April 1830, when a schooner captain and his crew claimed to have encountered it off of St. Simon's Island, just below the mouth of the river. It was described as a whopping 70 feet long, with a body as thick around as a large barrel, and with a reptilian crocodilian head set upon a longish neck. And there would be several other reports of the same thing in the days after the account. The creature would be spotted numerous times over the years, with some of the reports becoming quite high profile in the news. One such sighting happened in 1969 when a Donnie Manning and his brother were fishing along the river at a place. We read the part where this guy just encountered it, huh? I suppose I could read another bit of this thing, but we can come back and maybe look at this article tomorrow, or maybe I can do another article. But tonight's been a pretty good live stream. I just wanted to read a bit more before I did anything else. Please, folks, remember, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you, okay? I'm just finishing that, leaving what we've read, that article there. I'll finish it maybe tomorrow or something. All right. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that like button. Okay. Yeah. So it helps me fight it helps me fight the algorithm. Okay. Leave some comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah. Let's see. Make sure to share this video make sure to share this video to Twitter and Facebook. What else is there? Yeah. Leave some like button. Yeah. Hit that bell and hit the part of the bell for all future notifications. And please go and subscribe to Stitch Together Pics. Stitch Together Pics is a YouTube channel hosted by the Maniacal Cinephile. His YouTube channel is great. You're going to love his reviews of movies. He plays a character that has multiple personality disorder, the Maniacal Cinephile. You're going to love his reviews of movies. They're just so much fun. As well as go over and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. Let's see. He releases small videos talking about high strangeness, but he also live streams every night. On weekdays, he live streams at 12:30 a.m., and on weekends, he live streams at 10 o'clock p.m. and 3 o'clock a.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts, and you learn so much. Go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book, as well as go to rumble.com and subscribe to my Rumble channel. The name of my Rumble channel is Comic Freak, as well as go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel. It is also named Comic Freak. Remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, 8 or 11 for another live stream. So be sure to come back again tomorrow for another video. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me.